Hello.
Okay. Hey.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bronze Age Monsters, the show where we wade into the weirdest and wildest waters of the comic books of the 1970s. This season on B.A.M, we're covering the brief life of Atlas Seaboard Comics, the publishing venture of Martin Goodman that some say was a middle finger to Marvel and Stan Lee. Revenge is a dish best served in 4 colors. I'm Matt Howell.
I'm Jacob Balcom.
Thanks for joining us this week, listeners. This is our first live of the season. We kind of did this at the last minute kind of audible thing because Jacob needed a day to recover from a little bit of a feeling down. So we're doing it live. And hopefully some people are here to check it out. I don't know. Short notice. Captain America is premiering tonight. Who knows who's going to be here?
Yeah, that's okay. No, I'm excited. I like doing these live things. It's pretty fun.
So do I. So, yeah, it's nice and stormy here, so it's a great night to settle in with a little whiskey, a little bit of Atlas Seaboard Comics, and my buddy Jacob, and talk about some 70s weirdness. So, yeah, Jacob, do you have any announcements or anything we need to do before we dive into this? I see some people are saying
I was
hi.
thinking about
That's
it.
Cool.
Yeah, got some people here, which I'm excited about. No, not that I can think of. I think we have all of our business taken care of, and yeah, I think this is one of those where we can just jump in.
Cool. So because we can do this season, we can reference that we're going to be talking about issue number 1 of Phoenix from Atlas, like we said. And
That's right.
we'll touch very briefly on at the end here about the other issues and the short run of this and the complete reboot that happens at the very, very end. But yeah, I'm excited because we get to meet as a writer someone that we've been talking about since this season started heavily, who is Jeff Rovin, who actually wrote this one. So, yeah, I'm kind of stoked about that one. Is there anything we want to say before we dive in and just start doing art?
Well, I think that I think we can talk about the cover and then we can talk about the creators on the opening page. So I think we're good.
Right on.
Let's jump into the cover.
Okay. So, this is, I believe, maybe the last or next to last of the first wave, all the books that came out on November 12th of 1974 that are cover dated January of 1975. So I think this is one of the last ones, if not the last one. So yeah, this is a cover that was laid out by the interior artist, Sal Amendola, but Dick Giordano redid it because I believe that Martin Goodman said that he didn't think that Sal's pencils were dynamic enough for a first issue. So he brought Dick in to redo it. Probably a good call. He was friends from the DC days.
Yeah, but didn't you read that it wasn't just like he wasn't happy with the cover, the mechanics of the cover. It was more like that he wanted, because this cover is supposed to demonstrate, the destruction of Reykjavik in Iceland.
Yes.
But Martin Goodman said that what he wanted it to be, he's like, let's make it look more like Earthquake and the Towering Inferno.
Yep.
He wanted the 70s disaster films that, this is. It seems like, and Martin Goodman, he'd made some really good calls a lot of times throughout his career. He was a very astute businessman. He knew where the trends were, and he followed those trends and made a decent living out of it. But now in 1975, he's grasping at straws, and he's so out of touch that him trying to jump onto these trends is falling flat.
I think that's true, but I think, wouldn't you say there's also another nuance, another layer of this onion that is also that he has made a career of hopping onto whatever's popular at the moment, pumping out the books, getting all that money. Then once the sales drop, he just bails and goes on to the next thing. I mean, I think kind of capitalizing on the Towering Inferno or Airplane or any of those disaster things is just him doing that exact same thing, just pulling from pop culture.
Yep. I mean, yeah, that's following the trends. That's what I meant. He just takes that, whatever is trendy, he'll follow it and do it until he runs it into the ground, and then he'll go and do the other thing. So he was trying to do that. It's interesting, though. I mean, especially as we read more into these series, getting to the last issues on a lot of them, to where he's just flailing. He's almost trying to redesign and rejigger the books every issue.
Yeah.
To where none of the books look the same by their final issue. They're completely changed.
I think flailing is the perfect word to describe what was happening editorially or from at a publishing level. As we've said so far in the previous episodes of this thing, that Jeff Rovin was frustrated because Martin Goodman was telling him change this, change that. He's like, dude, we haven't got sales figures on issue 1 yet. What are you doing? So I mean, it was always in flux. Nothing got a chance. So that's kind of a hallmark of this whole venture, was that it was never Marvel enough for Martin, and Jeff didn't get to do as much as what he wanted to do and to commit and let out enough line to see if something plays out, if he can catch a big fish. Didn't matter. Martin was moving on and adjusting and trying to just copy Marvel at every step of the way. And then they spent way too much money and folded in a year. So,
yeah, it's almost like, Martin Goodman, he's not a young man at this point. It's almost like what he's trying to do with these comics, that maybe would have worked when he was doing the men's magazines and pulp comics in the 30s, like pre-Timely. That probably would have worked. He's just like, shit, this isn't working. Let's try something different. Maybe this will appeal, and it was much more kind of the Wild West back then. And with this, they're trying to build a brand. They're trying to build a line. And that kind of maneuvering doesn't really work if you're going to build a lasting comic company.
Yeah, and it's interesting reading, in that Comic Book Artist number 16 that we constantly reference. You guys should, if you haven't got it yet, please go spend the $4 or $5 to get the digital version from Tomorrow's Publishing. So many people, like in the press and stuff at the time, like, here's Big Two's getting a competitor. Like, everyone was excited about it, and they're like, holy crap, they're pulling all this talent in, and people had high hopes. And so it really does come down to the failure of this comes down to Martin Goodman. There were some things here that we're going to talk about this coming year that were not good, not great. Even objectively speaking, we're fans of art, and art is subjective, but there's some stuff here that even the people that made it are like, nah, I'm not proud of this. It's not good. But that, coupled with the guy steering the ship changing course constantly, this thing was doomed. So, but Jacob, I did want to mention before we dive too far in here that we've gotten some feedback from folks saying that they're loving the season so far, and they love the fact that we're kind of back to that buffet. We've mentioned this before, like the fact that we're getting different genres, different artists, and we seem to be reinvigorated. I'm definitely more reinvigorated. I didn't dislike Creature Commandos, but it was definitely a frustrating book for season for me. So I'm glad people are picking up on the fact that I'm happier as a co-host of the show with you. What we're doing here is so fun. Like, even when it's, like, I read Iron Jaw and was like, oh my God, how are we going to talk about this? And then we had a great conversation about it. People were like, that episode was so good. I love it. I don't want to read it, but I loved listening to you guys talk about it.
See, that's what we wanted for this, because we know what we were getting into when we decided to do Atlas. We knew that it wasn't, going to be the greatest comics we've ever read. But the story is interesting enough, and it's enough of a buffet to where we get to see all these different creators and writers and artists trying their best to try to do this new thing. And so that is what it makes it exciting. And I think that's what makes it fun for us to talk about.
Yes. And I think we're also, at least I am so far, enjoying seeing the pullback and the reshaping and the rejiggering and the reworking of things, and this kind of like flailing at the last minute, these death spasms. I'm really enjoying where they go. Like, seeing Ironjaw actually kind of get softened a little bit and kind of like bring in a Friedrich and be like, how do we make this actually non-sexist piece of shit? Just different stuff like that. And what they did with Phoenix here was definitely felt like a Martin Goodman, like, you guys, God damn it, I said Kirby, it's just, I don't know. It's so funny how these things go. So I can't wait to kind of play out. I'm glad that, thank you, Jackson, so much for giving us all of these issues, because it's so awesome to read the whole thing and dive into the first issue and then kind of just do the epilogue at the end, like what else happened. So anyway. Yeah, it's my long protracted ramble there, but I love this cover. I agree with you. He brought Dick in probably to add in all the disastery things in the background, but skyscrapers just falling, everything exploding, people running. Steve McQueen's not there, Paul Newman's not there, but you get the picture. It's pretty obvious what he was going for there with all the disaster crap. I love the saucers. I love the execution of this thing, and I love the layout too. I think it's a really cool cover. So.
I think it's a great cover. Like, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And Glenn said, could they have made the Man of Tomorrow any smaller? That's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny, because that was one thing that we've commented on a lot of these first issues for this first month of Atlas, is that we loved how sparse the covers were at least not having a ton of copy and the greatest thing ever, like thrown on to really cool art. You know, they could have done that with Ironjaw and they didn't. Could have done that with the Grim Ghost and they didn't.
Exactly.
So yeah, maybe this is just, it's funny. Like the tiny Man of Tomorrow is like, oh, maybe we should start doing this. We'll just dip a little toe.
Yeah.
Tiny little toe into the water.
Yeah. We might want to hold on to this, right, at some point. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so our opening page, the title of our story is The Phoenix from the Ashes. Our cast of creators says script and editing, Jeff Rovin, art, Sal Amendola. So we've talked a lot about Jeff Rovin in these first 2 episodes because he was the main editor of Atlas at the time. And his career in comics is not as gigantic as his career outside comics as a writer. He is a amazingly prolific writer. As far as comics go, his first comic credit is in Forbidden Tales of the Dark Mansion 11. He only has, I swear to God, he only has like 20 to 30 actual comic credits in his career. But he's written an insane amount of books on comic history, video game strategy, joke books, biographies, pop culture encyclopedias, and he wrote all 21 of the Tom Clancy Op Center books.
That's right.
So it's crazy. So, you know, I'm sure he's made a extremely good living writing all these very best-selling books. Like he has written, just an astonishing amount of stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be. I'm glad we're getting a little bit of his writing here, and I did like it. I liked his writing in this. So, and then let's go on to Sal Amendola. Like Matt said before, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about comes from that Comic Book Artist 16. There is a enormous interview with Sal in there, probably one of the biggest interviews in there, alongside Jeff Rovin. And Sal was a really cool guy. He was born in Italy, moved over here when he was about 6 months old, lived his whole life in New York. He graduated from the School of Visual Arts in '69, and he went on. He got his MFA in illustration. He started his comics career in '69 working for Dick Giordano on The Witching Hour. He became his assistant editor. Then he kind of worked in the production department on DC. He did coloring, inking, lettering. He provided artwork for Green Arrow, John Carter, Warlord of Mars, did some Weird World stuff. And but he got kind of dissatisfied. He left for Marvel in 1972, where he was kind of like an associate editor doing that again, but he was unhappy. So he kind of bounced back between the big two for a while. He returned to DC. Now, the thing with Sal, what he's probably most famous for is a Batman story called Night of the Stalker. And I know this because Night of the Stalker, it finally was published in Detective Comics 439, which is 100-page, super spectacular. So I own it and I love it. And it was based on an idea by Neil Adams, but the editor at the time, Julie Schwartz, didn't like it and rejected it. But a couple years later, Schwartz was succeeded by Archie Goodwin. And Archie Goodwin's just like, hey, show me that story that Julie didn't like. And then Goodwin, being Goodwin, was like, this is great. Let's do this. And so it has dialogue, but there's no dialogue in it. Captions by Steve Englehart. Sal and his brother, I think, do the art. And it's inks by Dick Giordano. And it's considered one of the best Batman stories of all time. If you get some of those collections, like greatest Batman stories, like this will be in there.
Yeah.
And you've read this one, right, Matt?
Oh, yeah. It's been a few years, but yes.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's very, very cool. It's kind of shows like it's nearly silent. Like I don't think Batman says a thing in the entire issue or in the entire story. But he interrupts a robbery with these a young couple and their child, and the couple are killed, child, and so Bruce sees all these parallels, and it gets really but it's really emotional, and it's one of the first times. Like I think one of the last panels is just Bruce just sobbing, and it's really, really amazing. It won awards that year. It was it's really cool. So that is what Sal is most famous for. After that, he kind of bounced around. He went to Archie, then back to DC. He was an editor and talent coordinator. I think he talks about in that interview that, by the end of his time at DC, he was kind of like having to fire people. And he was just like, fuck this, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not what I signed up for. And so he was already teaching back at the Fashion Institute of Technology that was in Manhattan. And so I think he just basically went back and did that full time. But yeah, we'll get his art for the first 3 issues of the Phoenix, and then it all changes for issue 4.
Yes, very much so.
But yeah, so we open up on this. We open up on space, this space station called Threshold 1, scientific lab, and there's a crisis going on. It says, "Houston, this is Tyler. Sector C is leaking air. We've got less than 30 minutes to pinpoint the leak. If we can't," and then another one's like, "Captain, air pressure's down to 0." And they say, "Okay, well, we'll set our landing coordinates. We're getting the hell out of here. Fix a course to the North Pacific near Alaska." But then, right as they do, we get a really cool illustration of the ship, the scientific lab exploding. And I thought that was really cool. I really liked that. I really liked that illustration down there with the title and with the explosion. And it was very like high stakes, high energy scariness in the first 3 panels, which I thought was really cool. It was a really dynamic way to open up the story.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the way he renders characters just in general. Like everyone's kind of like lanky and kind of thin and not too muscle bound and whatever. I mean, I just kind of like his approach to people and his architecture. I think that was Glenn that mentioned like the way he draws forms and mechanical things and stuff like that. He excels at, especially. Yeah, hey, Jared. Yeah, like this panel here on the right, like very like Kubrick to me, like Kubrickian 2001, right? That's a lot in this space stuff, in my opinion. I see a lot of Kubrick kind of reference in here, like in this particularly this shot. Beautiful stuff. I love Sal's approach to stuff. More things than people, though. Like I think his graphic choices, he does some like Steranko kind of things. He does some cool stuff with negative space, some really bold layouts I think are striking. You can tell he's like a graphic designer type of guy more than a cartoonist in my opinion, which is a compliment as well. But yeah, I love his approach so far. And this whole kind of, again, the disaster stuff in outer space is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
All right. We're ready to move on.
Yeah, you bet.
So yeah, this crisis continues here on the next page. The guys have decided that the computer's down. They don't have time to reboot. They don't have time to do whatever. They have to get into the escape pod. And so they have to just kind of get out now. And they get in the escape pod. And then they bust out. And there's all this debris like punching pinholes in like the escape pods. So they're kind of like degrading as they're going down towards coming into like atmosphere. All the bullet-like fragments are riddling the spaceship. And then they're coming down. They're starting to, because of all those little things, the integrity of the hull is compromised on their escape pod. So there's 5,000 degree heat on reentry. It's setting the craft on fire. So it's burning. A parachute comes out as it's like landing down. And then it lands, and they know they're like up by the Arctic, on the North Pole, essentially. And then our Ed Tyler, our main guy here, climbs out of there. He's dizzy from the smoke, and he's going to get the life raft out. It's so smoky he can't tell what's going on with his 2 other astronaut buddies. And then there's a huge ba-damn! And there's an explosion from the fuel cache. Once the fire hits the fuel cache, sending him flying back. I love that drawing of him backwards and just black and white, mostly shadow. And it says the devastation is complete. So yeah, just love the high action.
Action packed. Yeah, it's super high action. And it's exciting. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right. He is more like a graphic designer, and I had a hard time being like, it's like kind of, I don't know, not Steranko. I mean, there's some Steranko stuff that I noticed from here in a little bit, but he's just a very sparse, like the way that he draws humans and the way that he draws the aliens, everything is really lanky. There's not heavy lines. They're all kind of, it's definitely like light inks on a lot of this stuff. It makes it really, really cool. And especially for the action, I think that really helps.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to clarify, like when I say Steranko, I mean particularly some of the more graphic, like pop art, some of the things he does. Like he really embraces negative space. There's a panel here where it's just got like a guy, he's just like shooting a beam, and it's like a long horizontal panel. It's just the beam. Like it's him in black as a tiny little like stick figure practically. It's like really bold choices that you wouldn't expect from a comic book, like a space adventure comic book like that. Like it's more European-y kind of vibe to me.
Yeah, very, very cool. So yeah, next page we see on that top panel says, caught in the awesome blast and stunned by the piercing bite of sub-zero temperatures, Ed Tyler lands a crumpled mass on a frozen beach in this Arctic wasteland, numb, near death. But we realize that the disaster has not gone unnoticed, because we cut to some aliens that we're going to become very acquainted with here. One of them says, a most unfortunate accident. Their space program showed promise. This will set them back. But then, so you basically get the idea that they're there to observe. You know, they're just kind of checking us out. And even they say, we are only here to observe. We must not interfere. It is against the law. So, you know, we've seen this before in comics, obviously, with the Watcher and all sorts of stuff. But also in comics, we know they never do that ever. Yeah. So they always interfere. Right. So every time. And so then, yeah. And again, they're making some, you know, being like, oh, but there's a wounded, I like it. It says there's a wounded intelligence out there. We cannot allow it to die. And so he's like, we have no choice. You know, I am not insensitive, but it would ruin the experiment. And they're like, no, we need to do this. And so they finally decide. They say no entity is beneath our concern. So this is the first glimpse that we get of these aliens. And we're going to have to come to an agreement on how to pronounce who they are. Yeah.
The race or the names, they're all hard.
The race and the names. We'll figure it out as we go along. Okay. But the first one we get is Daelin, Daelin.
That's an easy one.
That's an easy one. Yep. So we'll we'll go with that. But what was your first thought when you saw these aliens, the design, aside from Sleestacks?
They actually reminded me, there's this movie that I was obsessed with when I was a kid called Laser Blast, and it was made like in 1978. It was the last episode that Mystery Science Theater riffed before they ended, and then before they came back on Sci-Fi. But it has stop motion characters that are aliens, and they bring this weapon down to this guy. It's actually very reminiscent of this. They bring this weapon down, this earthling finds it, and it's like this hand cannon thing. But the aliens are these stop motion like turtles without shells, and they speak in this really cute like to each other. It's like the cutest goddamn thing you've ever seen. But these guys made me think of that. Like they're more like cute turtles without shells and weird 70s clothes for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Like one guy has a really cool suit on, and the rest of them have like 70s loungewear, leisure wear. Yeah. So I don't know. I think they're okay. I didn't love the design. What do you think? Are you a big fan?
I want to love the design. I just feel like the facial features are so kind of, well, they're not consistent. And I don't know if that was just a weird like choice. Like maybe their faces are always changing, but yeah, it's, no, their design, aside from, I like their tall lankiness, but yeah, their design isn't great.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And the hair really threw me too. Like this weird kind of like, it felt like the colorist wasn't sure like what Sal was doing. Like is the hair, do they just have Pee Wee Herman hair, like bangs, and then there's no hair? Or is there like hair and you're just not penciling it in? So it felt weird to me, and not in a good way, but I don't dislike it. Yeah. So, hey, I just got a job doing animations for Jared's kids stop motion stuff. Boom. See?
Oh, there you go.
Told you it's going to pay off in spades.
Check that out. All
right. We'll move on. So, so this continues. they say, he says, hey, we're a great race. It's our duty to look after lesser beings. So shall we try and, how do you say his name? Nerei? 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 All their names are weird.
All their names are weird. Nerei, I guess Cetra, I get that one.
Yeah. And they're, as a race, they're called like the Dei, like deity, like God, Dei. EI.
Yeah, I think it's Dei is how I was
saying it in my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he's again making this plea like, hey, this is an intelligent being. We have a duty as superior life forms to take care of this thing that's endangered. And then another one's saying, well, yeah, we are great, but that's not the only issue. If they miss this guy, they're going to come looking for him, and they might find us, and so that's a threat, and we can't deal with that threat. And look at this beautiful panel here of them standing over the unconscious astronaut. And again, I just love how lanky and thin everybody is. It's so cool. Like they're almost like grays, right? Like classical aliens, but with like normal sized human heads. And they're saying, well, his ship has vanished beneath the sea, the one that's in favor of taking care of him. Saying, his ship's gone beneath the sea. Let's take him back to our base. And then, no one will know that he was even here. And then we cut to NASA headquarters in Houston, and we see the people in charge of the mission, and they're saying, hey, did you guys find them on the radar yet? And no one's found them. They've just vanished off the face of the earth. I did want to mention that it's not as evident here, but this NASA commander guy, whose name is Carmine, Sal was drawing his old friend Carmine Infantino, and he modeled him after him. You can really see it in later renditions of him. It's not so evident here, but so yeah, the guy's saying like, let me know as soon as you've got something. And the guy's like, what are we going to tell the astronauts' wives? And he's like, tell them we're doing the best we can, the very best we can. Like that's Lee Marvin, right? This is like, so there is some disaster movie kind of shit here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I loved Carmine Infantino making an appearance there. That made me laugh, since it's very obviously him.
Yeah.
And also that line, I thought was really great of Rovin's, to where the guy's like, oh, we're a great race. We need to look after lesser beings. He's like, it's true. We are indeed great.
Yeah, I love
You're
that.
totally right. Like, that's the first thing he says. He's like, no, you're right. We're awesome. But yeah. No, and I like that middle panel to where it talks, it shows like some of the aliens are breaking panel. It's just it's very cool. Like a lot of the layouts are really cool. The thing is, it's like I read this the first time and I was like, I like the art. And then I read it the second time and the third time, and I'm like, well, some more flaws are kind of showing up. And so I think there's a charmingness to the art, but whether it's actually super good or not, I'm kind of still on the fence.
Yeah,
some of it I think is.
Yeah, like this panel here, where we first saw in Houston, where Sal brings out a ruler. All the stuff's amazing, like impeccable. Anything inorganic looks amazing. When it comes to people and faces in particular, just kind of like, man, it's inconsistent. Like I think Glenn was saying, like, just I don't know. It's tough. I'm with you. Like when I first read it, the first read through, I was like, ooh, I like this. This is different. My eyes are drinking this in, and then on subsequent reads, I was kind of like, there's things I love about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, all right. So next page. Yeah. So Ed wakes up, and he wakes up in the Arctic, and he's like, man, what hit me? My head feels like it's on fire. Then he's like, what? And two aliens walk in being like, you're awake. That's good. We're concerned you might not survive. But yeah, Ed's just like, oh, dear God. And they're doing that thing that, you would see from the Twilight Zone, where when the first time when aliens see you and they're like, hey, eat. We just need you to eat a lot. Like, everything's going to be fine. He's just like, no. Never mind that. Who are you? Where am I? And they're like, no, that's unimportant. Your spaceship was destroyed. We saved your life. Have some food. Everything's going to be fine. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember the explosion, but where are my companions? They're like, they're dead. And he's like, dear Lord, no. But, the aliens, as a lot of those elevated beings are like, they're kind of dicks about stuff. And so he's just like, oh, no, they're families. And one of the aliens is like, no, you know, don't concern yourself about them. They're fine. Like, they're over. Like, their ordeal's over. Yours is just beginning. Come with us. Why are you taking 5 seconds to mourn your 2 friends? Like, stupid humans. And he's going, but then, you know, at the in the bottom there, he's thinking, oh, this is unreal, but I'll play along at least until I can find out who these people are and what they want with me. So yeah, the faces get a little more mushed in here, specifically the in those smaller 2 inset panels on the right. Yeah, the faces are starting to get more noticeably weird.
Mm-hmm. I really like that bottom. Again, the negative space is like a recurring thing that I respond to from him.
Yeah.
And the close-ups like this, where the people are kind of cropped by the panels.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he does stuff like that, I'm always into it. I immediately like perk up and like, ooh, cool, I like that.
Well, it looks great.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. You know, obviously everybody's has their own experience meeting this art, but I felt like I was like, am I just not in the right mood? Is it just depending on the time of day? Is it just me being weird? But, you know, so yeah, so this continues, and they bring him before like a little kind of council, and he's like thinking, this is absurd. I'm on trial. So it's like a Kafka sci-fi novel now. And they explain this is to determine the fate of the astronaut Tyler. He represents a threat to our society. The 3 of us will vote. The majority rules. Begin lay. And so they're all voting. So the one says, well, thank you. We saved this creature's life. We cannot allow him to return to his world. Our existence has to remain a secret. So I vote we let him live, but never leave the complex. He just is a resident of our base now. And then another one says, well, do you agree with that? Naya? And he's like,
Naya.
Well, should he entertain thoughts of escape, our presence will become known to all. We cannot take that chance. I vote death. So now we got 1 for death, 1 for life. And then, and then I didn't get this reference. I had to look this guy up. He's like, Ed thinks if ever a man needed Owen Marshall, I've got to put a stop to this. So I had to look up Owen Marshall. It's like some law show from like the early 70s. Have you ever seen it?
No, I've never heard of that.
Okay. Yeah, apparently it was popular, but it was like on for like 4 seasons. I've encountered most 70s stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I think between the 2 of us, like
you especially,
we
you're
know
way more into this kind of stuff than I am. I figured you would have heard of it.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, if you know Barnaby Jones, how would you not know? You know, I mean, how many police procedurals and law shows were they just in the rotating NBC, you know, mystery movie? I don't know. Yeah, that's shocking to me. I'm going to have to look it up. I got to watch it now.
Yeah, it's like called like Owen Marshall, Attorney at Law, I think is the full title of the show. So, you know, Tyler's like, can I say something on my own behalf here? I'm like, no, you may not. You will simply hear and accept the verdict of this council. Now it is my job to cast a deciding vote. And so we get this exciting, tense, you know, you get disaster stuff, you get courtroom drama, you get everything, you know? And so it says he feels his muscles tense and grow taut as his, you know, life and death is being debated. And he thinks to himself, you know what? I'm not going to let a bunch of zombies pass judgment on me. And then they say, on the contrary, Mr. Tyler, you are our prisoner. You'll do exactly as we say. What? You devils can read my mind? So now we have telepathy. I'm treating that, Jacob, as a new sudden power that came out of nowhere.
New sudden power, drinking of that.
What are you having, by the way?
I am having Scottish breakfast tea, milk, and rye whiskey.
That sounds good.
It actually is really good.
So I bought a whole bunch of Michelob Ultra for the Super Bowl, and then like a bunch of people didn't make it. So I have a bunch of really shitty, watery beer to get through. So working on that.
Wow. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So, so he realizes they can read his mind, and then he flips out. I love this bottom panel. It says, that does
Isn't
it.
That awesome?
Kill me. Do whatever you want with me, but rob me of my privacy, my thoughts, and I'll kick your moldy kissers from here to Antares. God, that bottom panel justifies all the other 5 pages we've seen so far, in my opinion.
Seriously, it really does. It's so cool looking.
God, I love it.
Yeah. See, but throughout this issue, like there are little flashes of that, and they do seem to happen, like kind of once I was getting like, especially that second, maybe third time through, I was just like, oh, geez. And I'd run into this and I'd be like, oh, no, okay, all right. I feel better about this.
Yeah.
And then like there's a few parts in this story that made it palatable enough for me. But wish there were more.
Yeah, but that bottom, that looks like that would be in some portfolio of like some, master artist, like of just studies, right, of people, like human form studies or something. Especially that raging one.
It's just, that's so cool. All right, so next, and there's some cool stuff on this page too, honestly. Like, so next page, and they're continuing to debate about this, but then he says, ask our guest to be seated, and that says in the span of a single heartbeat, kapow! And then he slides down and is seated, and the main fella says, now then, you will pay attention. You mean nothing to us. You are primitive, irrational, you react with emotion and not intellect. You and your people are not but wild animals. So, he's laying into us poor humans. It's not wrong, but still. And he says, you're the first human to come among us in many years. We want to keep you under observation. We can learn much about you, so I vote that we spare your life. So that's a deciding vote. It says assembly adjourned. And then he gets a nice tour of the facilities. But the guy says, prepare yourself for sights that will stun your thinking human. Just your thinking human. And then, but also it's like, there's control panels and like displays and stuff. So, he was probably like, we got those. Like my mind isn't blown yet. Just like, yep, it's buttons. It's buttons and screens. Oh my God. So, then, Ed says, to tell you the truth, nothing could shock me more than this subterranean outpost. Then his guide says, oh, in that case, you were in for a jolting surprise. So I feel that I really liked this kind of relief of the final vote guy. As like kind of weird and, patchy as it is. I did like it.
Did you see Mark says that reminds him of Marshall Rogers? I can see that.
Oh,
for sure.
That's great.
And Jason's pointing out, Jason Feinstone. Hi, Jason. He says these alien mofos are giving a lot of mixed signals. They are a little mercurial and all over the place.
Yep.
So I think that portrait of that alien in the close up there is a standout also for me, like a highlight of the issue. These, just like his little inset here, like the little alien face. Again, they just kind of look like stoned doodles, like little stoned aliens that somebody was drawing on their peachy in high school or something. I don't know. A little weird, but
yeah, they look like shrunken heads almost. Like
apple. Shrunken apple heads.
Like those, shrunken apple heads, which of course we have here in the house. Alicia has nut dolls folk art, the cursed nut doll that haunted me. So I'm used to a lot of that stuff. Yeah. And it still is weird to me.
Yeah. Okay. So we're moving on here. They tell him to be seated and watch the screen before him, and they show him footage of the millions of years of human evolution going on. So they've been here observing the whole time. And I love this triptych here on the bottom where they say, in the beginning, God created this planet and all things else in the universe. But our race evolved quickly in another star system, and we visited your prehistoric planet. Yours was a world of mammals untamed. And I love watching this little triptych here, like of Tyler's reaction to this stuff, where he's like bored, and then he's angry, and then he's kind of like dejected or something like that. He's denying it. And they say, so was with high expectations we experimented upon your ancestors, mutated those who clung to the branches of trees. So we have a very popular thing in the 70s, the ancient astronaut theory that was Eric von Daniken or whatever his name is, and all those guys, Chariots of the Gods. The idea that we were apes, we were whatever, and then aliens came here and did the DNA experiments or something on us, and then that's where the leap to the missing link happened, and we became early humans.
Okay, but can I just point out,
yes, sir.
I laughed out loud because they're doing this whole thing. They're like, okay, millions of years ago, and then he says, in the beginning, God created this planet and all things else in the universe. I couldn't remember what like Kang and Kodos episode of the Treehouse of Horror, but yeah, it was Kang like created by God, and they do the sign of the cross and stuff, which I don't know, and intergalactic beings that are just like, no, God,
no, it's totally God. I mean, duh.
We're deists here. Oh, there you go, right there. It's in the name.
Speaking of The Simpsons, though, I love that Tyler is like, he's basically like Homer, where he's like, boring. Like, we're showing you the secrets of the universe. It's like, I don't give a shit.
It's like, yeah. It's like, change the channel.
Yeah, Marge.
Yeah.
So yeah, it explains, we changed you from ape to man, and we've been here ever since, watching you grow, make mistakes, make war on one another. And he's like, so our guardian angels, huh? Then why have you never revealed yourselves? Are you ashamed of your handiwork? He says, very much so, which is why we must destroy your people and start all over again. Like, what? He's like, now listen, Buster, I've had about all I can take from you and your self-righteous buddies. You make mistakes, we make mistakes, but then so do you. And he's like, all right, so by your own admission, mankind is one of those mistakes. So use your powers to help. Don't kill us. Help us start over. Reasonable plea, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Destroy all humans.
Destroy all humans. Always.
Yeah.
That's always what they want to do. And again, some days I get it, man.
Yep.
Some days I do. But Ed Tyler's going to fight for us. So I'll get behind him for this issue at least.
Yeah. Glenn points out that in that triptych I was just talking about before that I liked, he almost looks like three different people. Right? The way he's kind of.
Yeah, he does kind of.
And that's Sal's rendering of people. Like, it's inconsistent with them, like a triptych of one person.
Yeah. So yeah, next page. So the alien throws him up against the wall. Well, very well, Mr. Tyler, I shall use this power. For as you say, we Dei should keep our misguided children in line. And what better place to start than here and now? And so then it's funny. So it says a searing bolt of nuclear energy shatters the quiet of this subarctic chamber. It cuts a vicious path through seconds of time, livening every nerve to the prisoner's body. It's just like, he's toying with me. Why? And it's like, why, Mr. Tyler? I'll tell you why. Either you will live here by our rules under our wing, or you will die here. Do I make myself clear? And then the stone of the wall tumbles. I guess in kind of like, that could have been you, kiddo. Like,
did
weird,
that seem
right?
weird to you? Like the first time
it's super weird.
Read that, I thought he was like doing like a like the thing that people do in movies when they're like, you can't get in here, you don't have the key, and then like opening the door, like if somebody left this open, you could escape. I thought he was doing that every time I read it. Like, no, he's not doing that. He's not providing a means of escape. He's not cutting a Ed Tyler sized hole in the wall for him to get access to weaponry. No. Nothing. He's just threatening him.
Yep, he's just threatening him. He's just being like, see, this could have been you.
So it's like in a saloon when you shoot around like the drunk to amuse yourself, like pew, 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 pew.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have the Tommy gun and you're just like, doing the outline in the wall in the Dick Tracy comic. Then yeah. So then he's like, okay, well, we have much to talk about, much to tell one another. Now, however, our rest period is near. Come, I will show you to your quarters. And Narration says, the astronaut dared not think aloud, but subconsciously he knew that something must be done, and soon.
Yeah. So that page, every time I read it, kind of confused me because I didn't quite understand that little show of force. I guess that's all it is. I kept wanting it to have another layer of meaning or purpose, and it was just a show of force, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One thing I thought was interesting was that Sal talked about what Jeff wanted in the story, and this suit that the alien wears becomes the suit, as you could tell from the cover. It's not spoiling anything. Is the suit that style of suit that Phoenix wears when he gets a gear, and he wanted it to change. So it starts off as a triangle, and then he wants it to slowly become a cross, as these Christ-like things slowly start popping out all the time, which I thought was very, very strange way to go with this book, having this be an allegory for the second coming of Christ.
It's so weird. And I mean, it's in this issue just a little bit, but yeah, like we'll talk about at the end in 2, 3, and 4, they lean into it. I don't know if they were super into Warlock and we're just like, let's make a worse, more obvious Warlock.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
Their only weakness is low blood sugar in the early afternoon. Says Jason.
Yeah. So like us.
Okay, so they've threatened him, and now it's time to show him to his quarters. So he goes in this room. I really like this panel. Like, this reminds me of the last act of 2001 when you see, the guy like in the weird like space chamber with his big 4-poster bed and his fancy clothes and his velvet smoking jacket on and all that stuff. Kind of felt like it was a nod to that, but I don't know. But I also just kind of like this weird approach to Tyler that Sal does here. I don't know. It's strange, and I find it compelling. So he's in his private cubicle, and he says, well, the day certainly did their best to make me feel at home. This place makes the Waldorf look like a cold water flat. Don't think I'll stick around, though. Got a feeling things are going to start jumping pretty soon. So he sneaks out of his room, and he says, just as I suspected, the Neri didn't look me in the... Didn't lock me in because he figured I had nowhere to go. So yeah, they just let him go around. And he says, first rule for alien hotshots, never underestimate a human. Okay. So are you writing these down?
All right, fine.
I'm going to start writing these down. And he says, especially one who knows nuclear physics. So glad that this came up because this establishes this character's abilities for the rest of the run. He says, I'll just borrow a few of these atomic transistors, pick up my spacesuit, plug these into my gloves. So he's doing all the stuff and then raid their men's shop for a climate-proof jersey. When I slip these over my flying gear, I'll be the most fashionable pilot in the NASA corral. And then we get this cool panel of him like bling, like showing off his new look. And he says, connected to my suit's wrist circuitry, the rig will make me more than a match for those sideshow freaks. So yeah, he's stolen some of their tech, wired it up, got his spacesuit, so he's got a whole thing going on. I like the design of this ultimately. I really do think he looks cool. And I like that crotch harness that really emphasizes your junk. I might try that out. Yeah.
Let's try that out.
The Junko
instead of
region.
tuxedo shirts. Yeah, no, instead of tuxedo shirts, we're going to do Phoenix jumpsuits for the finale of the show.
I love it.
Yeah.
3D printer.
No, I like this. It made me laugh though. Like, cause he's just like, all right, here's a closet with some clothes here. I like, he says, I know nuclear physics, so I'm just going to borrow these atomic transistors and plug them into my gloves. So it's just like, all right, cool.
Glenn pointed out that it's lucky that he found one with 5 fingers in the gloves because the aliens don't have that many fingers. So good thing they just had that stuff kind of loaded in there. Plus, their physicality, they don't like their phenotype. Like we don't match at all. Like this wouldn't fit him like this at all. Like they're like a foot taller and way thinner.
Could we just say, Reed Richards' unstable particles?
There you go.
Or, something like that. Let's just, let's do that. Why not? Jason Feinstone asked, does Threadless do custom junk harnesses? Well, they do. They do shower curtains. They do throws. Why wouldn't they do custom junk harnesses?
Yeah.
I'm going to write a letter.
I know. I need this. I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we get our first kind of action in the suit. This next page, because one of the aliens comes up. So what is the meaning of this, Earthman? Return at once to your quarters. And it's like, forget it, Neri. As far as this moment, I'm calling all the shots. And so, yeah, we get a pretty decent action panel. I do love that he's flying towards us in a very cool, realistic way.
Yeah.
But he says, stop, you do not know what you do. The others are coming. They will punish you, please. Which is, kind of a dick move because he's the only one that's really going to help Ed.
True.
But he says, sorry, Dalen. I appreciate all you've done for me, but... The other aliens are coming. They say, there he is. Put your wrist units on vaporize. We have no choice but to destroy the animal. But then Ed is getting some licks in of his own. He says, I hate to be contrary, Hars, but it's you who are animals. You treat my people like pawns in a chess game. And I, my friend, play God with no one. Socks him in the breadbasket. And as he's thinking, as the more of them are rushing him, like, oh, I don't think they buy your argument. Sooner or later, I'll be brought down here by sheer force of number. So he's planning on what to do the next page.
So gut check, Jacob. What were you thinking, like, story-wise? We've talked a lot about the art. Like, where were you, like, realizing, okay, we're halfway through this first issue. What were your impressions first read through?
Well, I mean, I think first read through, I did kind of I did a lighter read. I just read it, and I was just like, okay, well, I liked it better than Iron Jaw for a lot of reasons. And so I was just like, okay, I like Phoenix. This is gonna be fun to talk about. Second time I read through, I noticed more of the art flaws. And I noticed that it's a very familiar story, but takes fucking forever to get started.
Yeah.
Like, what are we on? Like page 12 right now? And he's just, I don't know. I mean, I know that, I don't know. I mean, it's nice. I'm glad that they're taking their time, but this seemed like a lot of time to take.
Yeah. That was my reaction as well. It just was kind of like, dang, this is taking a long time to get here. And it's not that Rovin's doing something entirely new. I feel like he's leaning heavily into some already well-established tropes at this point. So I was just a little frustrated by the pace, honestly. I love that he's like doing the action hero thing now, finally this kind of idea of the guy lashing out and saying, hey, Brainiacs, hey, 300 IQ, pow, pow, that whole thing. But I don't know. I find it a little frustrating.
Yeah, me too.
So on the next page, from the Stolen Transistors, there issues a blast so powerful as to beggar description. So I love this little just like cave painting of like of Tyler and the aliens, just like stick figures down here. It's this big blast, just blows this thing open. And the next panel, you see it's so powerful that it throws him back into a wall. I love that the idea as he goes, "Cripes." That made me laugh really hard. I don't know why. So yeah, then he's like, I didn't realize those things would pack such a punch. I gotta learn. My God. So, I like that he looks up. He's like, did I do that? Like Urkel. So again, I don't always love the way he renders people, but I think they're always interesting layouts like that. Again, the negative space just always gives a lot of leeway for me of just kind of like, okay, I forgive this or that I'm not 100% in on because I like the negative space. And then we have this nice big panel on the bottom where he realizes that blast just says, I don't need an engraved invitation. A small stream of neutrons should supply enough force to carry me into the air. And if I can just keep my balance, I may get out of here alive. And they're starting to recover, going, stop him. The human must not escape. So he mentioned that he has like a physics background, so blah, blah, blah. But this immediately got to that, like you were saying, the kind of nebulous, like Reed Richards, like, no, it's these unstable molecules do okay, so he just, with Doctor Strange to be magic, this is just science magic. Like, no, I just make a stream of neutrons and a lasso of neutrons and I skate out of here on it just feels like gibberish to me. It might be grounded in something, but this always kind of makes me, as a kind of not the sharpest tool in the shed, kind of shut down mentally. Like, okay, so you're just going to say the thing and then do the thing to make the thing happen, like without any kind of rhyme or reason to me.
No, I mean, I know he's an astronaut, but it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, he's learned a lot of this stuff in books. And so he's not going to immediately put on the spacesuit and then be like, oh, this is what I need to do. I just need to think about neutrons and then it'll make me fly. Done.
Yeah. Jason says Lee Majors as Ed Tyler. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that too.
I think Sal said that the reason this guy doesn't have a name like Peter Parker or Reed Richards, an alliterative name like that, is that Ed Tyler is actually a guy he went to school with. And because Atlas Seaboard allowed the artist to have their art back for like $1 or something like that, or I forgot what it was, he gave all the original art to that guy, Ed Tyler. So he said that if anybody has it, Ed Tyler still has it. The guy and comic book artist was asking him, like, do you have this stuff? He's like, I gave it to Ed Tyler. I thought that was kind of cool. I wish I was Ed Tyler.
It is cool. I know, right? Okay, so yeah, we see what is happening from the alien's point of view now. It says he must not escape. It's like, well, Nerai, are you satisfied? Everything, our entire experiment is ruined. He will use the atomic units to his own end. And so they're like, well, what do you suggest we do? And he says, I demand that we trace the neutron trail, follow his progress. When he stops to rest, we shall cause him anguish more severe than death itself. And so it says miles away, and he's screaming across, the sky. It says time has passed swiftly, and Tyler comes to recognize the terrain. Then he says, if memory serves me correctly, I should be somewhere over Iceland. And that's as good a place as any to rest to get my bearings and try to figure out what to do next. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of, I don't know. This is where just the pace and the storytelling just got really slogged down. Just like, ugh.
Yeah, I felt that was the issue with the entire story of the first issue. Yeah, I mean, like, again, we're on page 13 of 20, and he's just escaped the base after a lot of talking to explain something that was about 2 pages worth of conveyance to me. So, I don't know. I did like this kind of disco butterfly collar shirt that the dude's wearing, though. That's pretty dope.
Right?
Aliens created leisure suits, says Jackson. That's where they came from? So we can blame them. Okay.
Yeah. Why didn't Von Daniken talk about that?
My only note for this page was, what's with the weird menswear?
Yeah.
But I do like that rendering, and again, the negative space. It's cool, but it just looks a little goofy. Ed's hair changes color. Yeah. I don't know who colored these. I think there's question marks in GCD, but there's definitely some weird coloring choices in here. And I think Sal even mentioned
just mistakes.
Yeah, there's mistakes, but I think Sal even mentioned that, like Jeff was saying, let's do muted stuff. Like his suit was supposed to be like, like navy blue and like maroon, like kind of muted colors. And then like, Martin's like, fire engine red, God damn it, fire engine red. So like it was inconsistent throughout the thing because like Martin would override them and say, no, God damn it, brighter. It's like Superman. He doesn't look like Superman. I thought it was kind of funny and sad.
That is funny.
So, okay, on the next page, he's landed and he's gone into a cave. Nice panel here of him in the cave, kind of like looking at his gear on himself and like kind of collecting himself and saying, all right, I'm the most powerful man on earth, and that's not a responsibility taken lightly. But what do I do? Where do I go? I certainly can't return to Houston to my wife. If the aliens found out about Leslie, they'd use her for ransom to capture me. I can't put her in that kind of danger. Crap! Which made me laugh every time I read this, where it's like, okay, so I understand you're pushing boundaries and you're having fights with the comic book code people, but like that's the hill you choose to die on, was to have him say crap. And he's just standing in a cave going like, crap.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that made me laugh. Again, cool, good on you. But so yeah, we cut to the Capitol and we see people enjoying a summer swim, and they go to great lengths to explain that these pools, Jacob, are heated by magma heat from the core of the earth. This comes up in like vents and warms up. So it's like a natural hot springs heating this pool, which at this point I'm throwing my hand in the air. Like, what the fuck is this a goddamn fucking travel brochure for Reykjavik?
You're like, sure, why not?
So yeah, then we cut into like the pipelines inside the city, like hall, and there's 9 miles from the Earth's core, this heat coming up, and they're saying, Steve, Mitch, which I don't know, it wouldn't be like Bjork, and the name's like Bjorn.
It would,
okay.
Yes.
But Steve and Mitch, come here quick. Something's overheating the cores. The generator's going to blow. So we have that crisis situation that was injected either by Jeff listening to trying to make Martin happy. We don't know what's going on, but yeah, so there's a rupture from the magma cores and all hell breaks loose. Oy vey.
Yeah, I know. It's not great.
And before you change the art, look at that dude walking by the pool. Is he one of the Dei?
He looks very emaciated.
Did he borrow those legs from Slender Man? What the hell's going on?
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right. So yes, Ed's here. He says, it's funny. I always wondered what I do with absolute power. And now he's already getting a God complex. I'm like, you don't have absolute power, dude. Just back it up a little bit. You have a kind of okay spacesuit that you don't really know what to do with it yet. But then he's like, that noise sounded like an explosion. Then he comes up and he goes, dear God, the whole blasted city's falling apart. No time to think about the future. Thousands will die unless I do something fast. And then, we get the aliens have, says, in a matter of seconds, the astronaut reaches a stricken Reykjavik and it says, okay, buddy, think if you hit the fissures with radiation, it'll seal them shut, stop the geysers. Oh, something's not quite right, though. Iceland has one of the strongest crusts on Earth. Why should it erupt? And then we get a little girl like, Mommy, help me. And then, Ed swoops in and says, it's all right, honey. You're safe now. I'll just set her on solid ground. So, yes. The crust has broken open. There's magma and shit shooting up. And, we know it's probably not natural. That's what Ed is saying as well.
Yeah. So, she speaks English. I don't know how much, I know Sal admitted in that interview, it's like, I didn't do like hardly any research on Iceland. Like I was drawing like basically rustic huts. And then like someone's like, it's a major city. You can't just, so he went and got some modern reference material. I was like, oh shit. It's like totally modernized. Okay. Nobody speaks Icelandic there. They speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed seems to know whatever he needs to know at the moment, like that the thickest crust on Earth is in Iceland. Just some writing things here. I'm just always kind of like, what the hell's going on?
I know.
Okay. Bye, Jackson. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Jackson.
All right. So this continues. He says, I feel something in the air, energy of some sort. And then hundreds of miles away, the aliens are like blasting the core with more power. So we find out that this was all due to them. No surprise there. The electron stream is set at factor 5. That is good. But let us now raise it to factor 8. These are all just mean nothing to us. Show astronaut Tyler a spectacle he'll not soon forget. That guy's cross-eyed. I'm sorry. That fucker's cross-eyed.
Yep.
And I cannot take him seriously as a threat when he's cross-eyed.
Nope.
Anyway. And then, so Tyler, we come back to Tyler, and he's like, strange, my whole body tingling, burning, as if alive with radiation. I wonder. My wrist unit is picking up bombardment of nuclear particles from up north. Of course, the aliens are behind this. So when they jack up this up to factor 8, which, I mean, have we ever seen factor 8 before, Jacob?
Oh my God, no.
It underestimates the strength of it. And he's like getting tased essentially. And then he hits the awesome hero pose in the last panel. That does it. If I'm going to stop those apes from pushing us around, I might as well begin. So, yeah. I don't know. At this point, I was just kind of...
Yeah, the art on this is a little too sparse, too, on this page. I was just like, I don't know, man. Yeah, it was losing me at this point, for sure. Even though, man, this page is pretty great.
Yeah.
Though this next one, because we get that great panel that you were talking about, that's just all negative space, him shooting the beam now, and that's super cool. This whole and then the 4 panels underneath that are also really cool. It's where it says the 2 beams meet and a deadly tug of war begins. At one end, a lone man. At the other end, a race of beings as old as the solar system itself. And so, the alien's like, more power! But then Ed, the strain, hands on fire, can't give in. But then he says, ours' resistance is too strong. Our reactions are overloading. Quick, we must evacuate. But then, boom, we get an enormous explosion. to where it says the ages-old outpost becomes the epicenter for an atomic holocaust.
I love that first panel. I love this bottom panel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he was pretty engaged this page with his choices. Like that profile's cool too. Yeah. Glenn likes the big now. It is cool.
It's awesome.
And it's a pretty bold choice. Of course, this explosion. I mean, come on. Everybody loves a big explosion. Grace said with all that radiation, he's going to wish that that crotch harness had more coverage. Sorry, I lost track. Is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, this big explosion happens. Most people manage to escape into the hills. The hills. So now it's my job. I think that's a left over from them not really doing the research on Iceland. So now it's my job to try and put things back together. So we see this little montage of him thinking through his science bullshit he's doing, destroying the surrounding molecules of air. I can create a vacuum and extinguish these fires, or blast new fissures into which flowing lava can be channeled. And then you see him saving people. His presence is creating quite a stir. And then the bottom of the page, he's like, well, there's not much more I can do around here. Guess I better. And the guy's like, I say, who are you? Do you know what caused this eruption? And he's like starting to fly off. He's like, sorry, friend, I'm afraid I know less about this than you do. I just happen to be in the neighborhood. So he just got some weird like Superman kind of like, see you later, citizen. He's like, gotta get away, back to the mountains. Need time to get my head together. Think things out. Well, at least I don't have to worry about the aliens anymore. Yeah. At least his crotch is safe.
Yeah. Yeah, his crotch is safe, which is all that really matters.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we head back to the aliens. It says, but the truth be known, only a handful of aliens were caught in that Arctic blast. So they're having a little meeting. Says, oh, fellow Dei, we have suffered this day an awesome defeat at the hands of the human. This act of aggression cannot go unpunished. So he says, therefore, I propose we send an expedition to find and teach this Earth creature a lesson and abort the experiment. Destroy the planet. So here we go. Soon after that, a compact transport sails from the aliens' Arctic recess. Meanwhile, at NASA headquarters, then I love that, his name's Carmine too, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah. Carmine, I hate to keep bothering you, but Leslie, I'm afraid there's nothing we can do but sit tight. There are hundreds of planes searching the north for your husband's ship. Look, I'll have Jim take you home. Go get some sleep.
Yeah. So they want to hunt him down, kill him, and then destroy the entire planet. So this time it's personal.
Yeah.
They were going to eradicate the entire planet anyway, but
yeah. Now they're really going to.
It's extreme prejudice. So yeah, here he looks a little more like Infantino.
Definitely.
There's another depiction of him in like issue 2 or 3 where it's like a shockingly good representation of him, portrait as being Infantino. But Leslie looks a little weird in that last panel.
Very weird.
She's got a 5 head for one thing, right? Just for days.
Yep.
Maybe
yeah, forehead for days.
Yeah, I think she might be one of the aliens as well with a wig on. One of those wigs from Gothic romances. Okay, so let's move on to the final page here. I really like just looking at the whole page. The whites, the use of white is really cool. So yeah, he says, how could I have been such a fool? He's blasting like out of anger. I should have known the aliens wouldn't let me get away scot-free, not without trying to stop me anyway. And then I love this big panel here. But no, I went bumbling off and caused at least 100 people to die, the city to be demolished. Is that how I'm going to use my power to better mankind? By destroying it? Some hero you turned out to be, Tyler. And my wife, what kind of anguish must she be going through? Man, I wonder if Flash Gordon ever had problems like these. And then the last panel, there's a crosshairs on him. It's just to hit home again. He's being hunted. But problems for a man the world will come to know as the Phoenix are just beginning. Be here next issue for the most awesome finale to an origin history and comic or origin story in comic history. So that's that.
Okay. We'll see. I've read it. It's not.
Yeah. So want to do shout outs before we do some letters and final thoughts?
Sounds good.
So let's do our shout outs for our beloved pack members. Those are the folks who support us at the $5 level, and they get access to the entire archive of the bi-weekly Shadow Show, what we used to call the bonus show. And on that show, we do other comic stuff now. So we're doing other Bronze Age one-off things, just little stories of the last one was like Gabriel the Devil Hunter. We did I, Vampire. We do stuff like that all the time and just check out different things. It's super fun. And we also do just extra things that the tiers below that don't get. But they also get a shout out in the show like this right here. So that's folks like Ben Potter,
Blake, last name withheld.
Brad Elmore,
Brian Steed,
Brian from Marvel by the Month,
Caleb,
Chris Sperry,
Dave Kennedy,
David D,
David Goodwin,
Glenn Lash. Hi, Glenn.
Greg Rowland,
Jared from Swords and Scrolls podcast. Jared was here tonight as well.
Jason W,
Jeff Fitzpatrick,
Jerry from Buffalo,
Justin the Owl,
Kyle from the Heartland,
Letty,
Matt Harvey,
Michelle from Moonlight Comics,
Pat Svek,
Rob from Marvel by the Month,
Russ from Tomes of Evil,
Tony Ayupi,
Tim Tucker,
and Worm Drive Pro. Thank you so much for supporting us, pack members. We appreciate you. One of those members has ascended, Jacob. There's another apotheosis.
Whoa.
A pack member became a star god. Why don't you explain what star gods are?
So Star Guards are the highest tier on our Patreon, and they get further gated content. We like to call them our celestial barbarian deities, the Star Gods, and they get tons more. They get all the content that we talked about, all the bonus show stuff. They get all the gated content for the pack members, and they get special gated content just for Star Gods. Now, if you're a Star God for 6 months, after those 6 months, you get to go to our Threadless shop and choose one of whatever you want. Travel mug, t-shirt, whatever you feel like. And that's our gift for being a loyal Star God.
Who are those people? Should we talk about the new one?
Yes.
So yeah, apotheosis, we mentioned this last time, but that's when deification happens, when someone becomes godlike. And our friend who's here right now, Jason Feinstone, who supported the show for, I think, since the very earliest days, decided to up for the final season and become a star god. So thank you, Jason. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jason.
But busting out the whiskey for that one.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I'm glad.
All right, so why don't you start this off?
These are our Star God shout-outs, like Ben M,
Brink,
Eric Hadley,
the aforementioned Jason Feinstone,
Jesse McFerrin,
John Walsh,
Josh Link,
MJ,
Mark Nivens,
Melissa Watts,
Michael Giacchino,
Ryan from Across the Bifrost, a Mighty Thor podcast.
And patron of the show, patron of the Atlas season, Jackson T. Overstreet.
Oh, we didn't mention Mark's here also. Mark's been with us this evening as well. Good turnout tonight, folks. Thank you for being here. We got some comments here. He says, woohoo, go me. I say, woohoo, go you. Mark says,
Agreed.
Welcome to a brand new world, Jason. And Jason doesn't indeed feel different. All right. So there was a letters column called From the Ashes. Jacob, I thought we could do a couple of these real fast if you don't mind. Short letters.
No, not at all.
Do you want to read this first one for me?
Sure. It says, Dear Atlas people, Inside Comics described it as a freshness of approach that hasn't been seen since Marvel began their superhero line in 1961. And I agree. With the first issue of Phoenix, I see that you are trying to break free of the traditional comic superhero mold. You are trying to be different than your competitors. I like the Phoenix because he really doesn't want to be a superhero. He's a simple man, and at first, he fails to control the power concealed within his uniform. Like every human being, he falls every once in a while. That's good, Good luck and continued success. From Alex Duco, Paramus, New Jersey. Now, response is, thanks for the good wishes, Alex, but Atlas has barely scratched the surface.
We're going to be here for a long time.
Maybe forever.
All right, here's another one. Dear editor, the year is 1977. The place, Threshold 1. And so it began. I was gleefully following you for 19 3/4 pages. A new superhero, the Phoenix, a man risen from the ashes, a troubled guy, not knowing where to turn, a serious man intent on saving mankind. Then on page 20, after a city has been destroyed because of him, what does he say? Man, I wonder if Flash Gordon ever had problems like these. Are you kidding? I wish you had an editor, Mr. Rovin, because he would have edited your head off for that completely out of character line. H. Shabbat? Silver Spring, Maryland? Sorry about that, HC, but you must realize that until the crash of the Threshold 1, Ed Tyler was the all-American boy. That means hot dogs, football, and, yes, Flash Gordon, too. So someone didn't like that. Right. Did that bother you?
Wow.
I didn't pull me out of the story at all.
Didn't even notice it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, H. Shabbat is furious.
Yeah, he is.
So we're going to talk real briefly here about the issues 2, 3, and 4. I mentioned the second coming of Christ parable, allegory, whatever you want to call it, that happened that Jeff was into. I feel like from that interview with Sal, he wasn't as enthusiastic about it as Jeff was and kind of pushed back. So there were 3 more issues. The second issue covers the part 2 of this story, like immediately picks up. And that's where a bunch of Christ-like stuff is. But I believe that Jeff, would you say that Jeff probably plotted this? And then I forgot the name of the guy who came in and wrote the issues 2 and 3. He also wrote some other things as well. I'm totally blanking on the dude's name now. But I believe that Jeff plotted out, because it's a 2-part story. It's an origin story. So I think he did that. But issue 3 goes into a whole other thing. And then issue 4 is a complete reboot. I mean, they've given him a new moniker, for God's sake, which happened on several books.
New costume.
Yeah, new costume. So, on the... so basically issue 2 is the aliens, like, threatening to destroy everything as they did. They were going to hunt down and kill Ed Tyler and then destroy humanity. And so we get this. It's very much like the Avengers. Like, it's him protecting New York City from an alien invasion. And man, the Christ stuff, like Jeff was saying, like, make his triangle on his chest slowly become a cross, like a crucifix. And Sal's like, no, please don't make me do that. But here we see him, like, literally parting the seas like Moses. He, at the end of that origin story, he flies up. He looks like he's crucified, and there's a what do you call that? Corona or whatever, like glowing light behind him, like a crown of thorns. It gets pretty heavy-handed. Then issue 3. So I think most people think that from what I gathered online and reading that comic book Artist 16, people seem to think the first issue was solid, and then it just fell apart and got terrible. I had the exact opposite experience with this line of books. I liked 3 and 4 a lot, and I didn't care for 1 and 2 that much at all. So I'm the complete outlier, which is totally normal. I typically am the outlier in any group. I always like the weird thing or the oddball thing or the thing that people think is not as well done. So in this one, it's only 10 pages, and there's a guy named Lucifer. So again, I think this might just be notes from Jeff Rovin, but the other dude, the second writer, is in here writing. Ed Tower goes to the Himalayas where people are being stolen by Yetis. Like, I just love how weird this gets. Villagers are being stolen by Yetis in the Himalayas, and there's a guy named Lucifer behind it who claims he's the real devil. It turns out it's just one of the Dei in disguise wearing a devil mask, and he's, like, literally scientifically turning people into Yetis. It's not magic, it's not whatever. And then we get another Christ thing in that issue. So it's Lucifer versus Ed Tyler, the Phoenix, and he gets bound to a cross. I mean, it's just pretty heavy-handed. And that's only 10 pages, as I said, in issue 3. And then the last 10 pages is a story with John Albano wrote, And Pat Broderick did the art with Terry Austin on inks, which is this weird. It was the Atlas Seaboard, from what I can tell, is supposed to be their Batman, and he's called the Dark Avenger. It's just a real quick origin story for this guy, just revealing like who he is, his secret identity, his family. Not great, but the art's pretty fucking great. What do you think of the art?
Oh, the art was amazing. The story is very forgettable.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid.
But the art was awesome. Pat Broderick was great.
Yeah, with Austin inks. Yeah, gorgeous stuff. It was cool seeing in that. Did you see that comic book artist thing, that the photos they took of this splash page that they use as a reference for drawing it? That's pretty funny. It made me laugh.
It was awesome.
So then in issue 4, it's called The Protector. Phoenix, Man of Tomorrow. Yeah, really small. And so they're completely rebooting. This has to be Martin Goodman saying, make him goddamn Silver Surfer, make him the Inhumans, make him something. Like, he's supposed to be Kirbyized or something. So this is look at the way that this new artist, Rick Estrada, I think his name is, which I actually like quite a bit in here.
Yeah, he's great.
The way he's drawing the day eye, they've got albino vampires or something. But the issue starts off with basically Ed Tyler saying, I've failed the Earth's done, so I'm going to commit suicide. And he's just going to fly up into space and run out of oxygen and kill himself. And there's people that have plans. They grab him and pull him into a space station. They're the Protectors, and look how Kirby they are. It's insane. And so they're so committed to rebooting this that they take Ed Tyler's face and give him plastic surgery like Remo Williams or something like that. So he's a completely different guy now. And they give him a new set of powers, a new suit, and they give him this monster to fight, this stop motion like Ray Harryhausen monster, and a new set of powers as a test, saying, here's, if you survive this, then you're worthy to be a protector of Earth. And then it ends with him defeating it, getting a grasp on his new powers. He has this weird set of like, you can't use them on organic things, you can't hurt living things, but you can like manipulate blah blah blah. So it's like this weird reboot of his power set from the first story, and he's set up at the end to be this new protector of Earth with a new outfit on. So yeah, I guess I would have to say, why don't you go first? I've just been yammering for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I felt that the second issue with the climax of the origin was pretty anticlimactic. I was just like, ugh, I was kind of bored. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather have goofy and over the top than boring.
Yeah.
And so I loved the Yeti one. Issue 3 was my favorite. Oh, because I'm like, God. It's the devil making Yeti. I was like, this is awesome.
I thought you were going to make fun of me.
I was kind of sad. No, I thought it was I was bummed that it was one of the Dei. I wanted it to be the fucking devil. Like, that would have made me really happy. I'm like, lean into it, fuckers. Yeah. You're saying he's Jesus. Why? No half measures. Come on. Yeah. So no, that was my favorite one. The issue 4, the Protector, just dumb. I mean, Rick Estrada's art is really cool, but just dumb.
I loved it. How much of a train wreck it is. Just like this, pull the emergency brake on this train and just be like, no, go left. Like, you can't do that on a train, dude. There's tracks, there's publishing schedules, there's scripts, there's, you know what I mean? Like, just felt like Martin just said, more Marvel. And, like Jason was saying, it's like pre-Starlin Warlock, I guess. I mean, kind of, yeah, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were doing your final thoughts. I apologize.
No, that was it for me.
I'm with you 100% here. So again, I was hemming. I was like nervous all week. Like, I don't want to go on here and tell Jacob that I like 3 and 4 the best out of all these, because everyone hates this book after the first story, and I really liked the stuff that's shit. And I love the art in the 4th one. I love what a train wreck it is. But 3, for me, just being a 10-pager, which is weird. Like, they didn't even have a full story. No. But I loved it. That was my favorite thing of the whole character. So I would have taken more of that. I would have taken the Protector, whatever the hell the reboot was. That looked terrible. If they had good art and it was just stupid, dumb space, pow, pow, bang, space Jesus stuff, I would have eaten that up too. I would have loved more of it. Yeah. So what we read, I was not into. And I was just shocked that I get the impression that this was people like the short list of like what Atlas did right. This is always on that short list. Like issue 1 of Phoenix was good. they always say Scorpion, Phoenix, Grim Ghost, or like they always like it's a short list and it's always on it, and I don't see why. I don't get it at all.
No, it's pretty forgettable.
Yeah, super slow.
I mean, I liked it; it was fine, but
fine.
but not a top 3 or whatever. No way.
But like now that we have these issues, like I'm gonna be going back to this, and and like not this. Like this is not my first choice. Like I love.
No,
look at this gorgeous cover.
I know.
Ugh. So yeah,
Yep.
You and I apparently have the unpopular position of liking it when it tanked and thinking it was more entertaining. Because I certainly did as well. So, okay, good. Well, I don't mind being the outlier and the guy that has a weird opinion, but it's nice when we're there together and it's not just you and me standing on one side of a line. So,
damn right.
Cool. So. First of all, everybody, thank you so much for being here for live. We love to have you folks here and your comments. In the future, Jacob, we should probably put out an invite to like the Star Gods, and if people want to hop on and say hey in any of these, it's always fun to do. Just like pull folks in like from the green room and have people on if they want to pop on and say hi and give their opinion on something. It's always fun to actually have people on the show besides just comments if they want to. Not everybody wants to. Totally fine. But so next up, we're going to have Star God MJ on, our friend from England. And he's going to be on to talk about The Brute #1, which was something that, from everything we've read, was a 1-to-1 analog ripoff of the Hulk. It was a request from Martin Goodman, give me a Hulk. And so this is Fleischer and Sikowski again, same team as Iron Jaw #1, but it's inked by Pablo Marcos. So that's cool. He's on there as well. I haven't had a chance to read this yet, so this is all new to me. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this for a while. But first, before that happens in 2 weeks, on the Shadow Show, we're doing one of our occasional free jazz episodes. So we don't always talk about another Bronze Age comic story and go through that like a review of that. We often just kind of riff and just talk about stuff that's going on in life, nice things, recommendations. Sometimes we do Kickstarter catch up if we back a comic book. So we're doing one of those for our next episode. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be talking a little bit about something that I backed personally and outside of the show by Kaza, which is a French cartoonist who worked with heavy metal and humanoids comics. And he did this epic from like 1989 to 2009, this huge sci-fi epic story. And Humanoids just collected it in a big hardcover omnibus. And I just got it this week. So I'm just going to kind of open it up and share it with Jacob and just kind of talk about what it's about and show some art to you guys after the fact. And then if you're interested in it, you can check it out. All right, so that's free jazz. Of course, we're on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky. If you want to find us there, you can just go and search for Bronze Age Monsters. You can find us. If you do want the Shadow Show, that is something that is restricted for people who back the show on Patreon. So if you want to get the Shadow Show and get more of us on our off weeks, because we do publish every other week, on those off weeks, you can get the Shadow Show. You can go to patreon.com/Bronze Age Monsters and support us there to get access to that and all the other 107 back episodes. So there is a lot of stuff in the archive. Also, if you are here right now live, thank you for being here. If you're watching this after the fact, please like this video and leave a comment telling us what you thought of the Phoenix #1 or what you'd like us to cover in the future or talk about Atlas-wise for this season. And, subscribe if you're not subscribed. We appreciate all that stuff. It all helps. So, Jacob, we met Ed Tyler. We had a good time. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was fun.
Any final words of wisdom for anybody or from anybody? Jason Finestone says, thanks, guys. Love these live shows. We love you. Thank you for being here, Jason. Thanks for sending. That's awesome. You're the best. All right, Jacob, I think we're good. Are we good on Phoenix?
Yeah, I think we're good. That's a wrap on Phoenix. So excited for The Brute.
Right on, me too. All right, folks. So until we meet next time, stay bronze, Pony Boy. Stay bronze. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
Glenn. Good night. Cheers.